Introduction. Today, many people struggle with learning. They ask themselves, why can't I understand this? Or why am I not seeing any results? You've probably felt that way before, too. But I, Isaac Newton, am here to tell you that the problem isn't with you, it's with your method of learning. I lived in the 17th century, a time when science was not nearly as advanced as it is today. I discovered the law of universal gravitation, conducted research on optics, and established the principles of calculus. But I was not a genius from the start. On the contrary, it was only after countless failures and a great deal of trial and error that I was able to arrive at the truth. Today, I want to share with you the 7 teachings for finding truth, principles I have come to believe in through my many years of research. If you put these teachings into practice, I am certain that you too can make new discoveries. So, let us begin. Teaching 1. Discovery never comes to those who think they know. Now, I ask for your attention. This is a matter of the utmost importance. The first mistake many people make is to assume that they think they know. Have you ever had this experience? You read a textbook and feel a sense of understanding, but when you try to solve a problem, you find yourself completely stuck. Let me tell you a story from my youth. When I had just entered the University of Cambridge, I considered myself a mathematical prodigy. However, one day I was completely unable to solve a geometry problem given to me by Professor Barrow. "Newton, my boy, do you truly understand this?" The professor's words struck me to the core. I realized then that I had merely memorized the theorems without grasping their true essence. From that day on, I decided to reprove every single theorem from scratch. I thought deeply about why does this formula work, and under what conditions can it be applied. To my astonishment, I began to uncover new properties, things that were not written in any textbook. Perhaps it is the same for you. You move on, thinking you understand. But true understanding is the ability to explain it to someone else and to approach the same problem from different angles. That is why you must keep this in mind. Knowledge is cumulative, but if the foundation is not solid, no matter how high you build, it will all come crashing down. You must abandon the pretense of thinking you know and cultivate the habit of always asking why. This is the very first step toward discovery. Teaching 2. Those who blindly follow authority will lose sight of the truth. Next, I wish to speak with you about how to approach authority. In my time, the natural philosophy of Aristotle was considered the absolute authority in the world of academia. However, through a simple experiment, I discovered that this long-held common knowledge was in fact wrong. My research was on the nature of light. The esteemed scholars of the day all believed that light was pure and could not be broken down. Yet when I observed sunlight passing through a prism in a darkened room, the light split into 7 distinct colors. When I presented this finding at the Royal Society, I was met with harsh criticism from many of the leading scholars. "Impossible," they said. "It is theoretically absurd for light to separate into colors." But I trusted the results of my experiment. I continued to conduct more experiments, building my proof piece by piece. I even performed a reverse experiment, using a second prism to recombine the colors back into white light. In the end, my discovery was proven to be correct. When you are learning, do you accept the words of your textbooks or teachers without question? Of course, one should learn basic knowledge from reliable sources. However, it is vital not to just swallow it whole, but to ask yourself, is this truly so? Respecting authority and blindly following it are two entirely different things. A true scholar verifies even the theories of the greatest minds through experimentation and logic. Only then can one arrive at genuine understanding. Remember this: truth is not found in authority. It is found within your own observation and your own mind.
Teaching 3. The fate of those who do not ask why. This is something I have come to believe with all my heart through my years of research. A person who does not ask why will never make a new discovery. One day, as I sat in a garden at Cambridge, I saw an apple fall from a tree. Most people would think nothing of it, simply taking for granted that apples fall down. But I had a different question. Why does the apple fall down? Why does the moon not fall down to the earth? Is there a common law that governs both of these phenomena? It was this simple question that led me to discover the law of universal gravitation. I realized that the force that pulls the apple to the earth is the very same force that pulls the moon. I recall an incident in my laboratory when one of my apprentices asked me, "Master, why do you question such an obvious thing?" I replied, "My boy, it is the things that seem most obvious that often hide the deepest truths. If you never ask why, you will forever remain at a superficial level of understanding." It was the same when I was developing calculus. It all began with questions like, why can't we find the exact slope of this curve? And why can't we calculate this area precisely? When you study, it is not enough to simply memorize formulas and theorems. You must always ask, why does this formula work? And what principle is it based on? By doing this, superficial knowledge transforms into deep understanding, which eventually leads to new discoveries. The habit of asking why is what will make you a true scholar.
Teaching 4. Mathematics is the language of the natural world. Now, there is something I must share. One of the most important truths I have ever discovered is that mathematics is the very language of the natural world. Many people think of mathematics as a mere tool for calculation, but that is a great mistake. Mathematics is the language we use to describe and understand the laws of nature. In my research, this truth was proven time and time again. When I discovered the law of universal gravitation, I used mathematics to express it. The equation F equals G multiplied by M1 multiplied by M2 over R squared is not just a formula. It is a sentence in the language of the universe, accurately describing the force that acts between any two objects. I remember an occasion during an experiment. I was studying the dispersion of light and trying to express the relationship between the angle of refraction and the angle of incidence mathematically. A colleague of mine said, "Newton, why do you insist so much on mathematics? Isn't it enough to describe the phenomenon in words?" I answered him thus: "Words are ambiguous, and their meaning can change with interpretation. But mathematics is universal and precise. A law expressed as an equation holds the same meaning across all time and all places. Indeed, the very reason I developed calculus was to accurately describe motion and change. With the mathematics of the time, it was impossible to determine an instantaneous rate of change, and so I created a new mathematical method to do so. When you learn, you must not shy away from mathematics. It is not something to be feared, but a key to understanding the beautiful order of nature. Once you can express physical phenomena in the form of equations, you will begin to see their true essence. Therefore, keep this in my heart. Mathematics is the bridge that connects you to the natural world. If you master this language, you will be able to unlock the secrets of the universe.
Teaching 5. Those who verify with experiment will always approach the truth. This is of critical importance. One can never reach the truth through theory alone. It is verification through experiment that is the only path to the truth. In my youth, there were many theories about light. However, they were all based on speculation, and no one had actually tested them. So I decided to conduct an experiment myself. I created a dark room, let in a small beam of sunlight through a tiny hole, and passed it through a prism. The result was astonishing. The white light separated into a beautiful spectrum of colors. But I was not satisfied with just that. I continued my experiments. What would happen if I passed one of the separated colors through another prism? The result was that the color did not split further. It remained as it was. This demonstrated that colors were a fundamental property of light itself. I remember one day in the laboratory, an apprentice of mine said, "Master, we have understood the theory perfectly. Why do you continue to experiment?" I answered, "A theory is nothing more than a hypothesis. It is only the experiment that can tell us the truth. A single experiment is worth more than 100 theories." It was the same when I discovered the law of universal gravitation. I checked whether the law I had derived theoretically was truly correct by observing the motion of celestial bodies. The joy I felt when the orbit of the moon, the motion of the planets, all perfectly matched my theory. It is a feeling that cannot be expressed in words. When you learn, try to verify what you have read in textbooks for yourself. Even a simple experiment will do. By confirming it with your own hands, knowledge transforms into living understanding. As you continue to experiment, you will surely make new discoveries, and it is those discoveries that will make you a true seeker of knowledge. Teaching 6. The secrets of the universe reside in a humble heart. There is something I have come to believe with absolute certainty over my long years of research. The secrets of the universe are revealed only to those who possess a humble heart. I recall an occasion at the Royal Society. When I announced my discovery of the law of universal gravitation, I received praise from many scholars. But at that moment, this is what I felt. I am but a boy, playing on the seashore, and diverting myself in now and then finding a smoother pebble or a prettier shell than ordinary, whilst the great ocean of truth lay all undiscovered before me. It was this very feeling that sustained my research in the years that followed. If I had become satisfied with my discoveries and grown arrogant, my quest for knowledge would have surely ended there. One day, a young scholar said to me, "Master Newton, you have already discovered so much.
Surely there is nothing left for you to learn." I smiled and replied, "My friend, there is no end to learning. What I know is but a single drop in the ocean compared to what I do not know." This humility gave me a new perspective. Even in my research on optics, I did not stop at my initial discoveries, but continued to delve deeper. This eventually led to the invention of the reflecting telescope. It is a truly mysterious thing. The more humble one becomes, the more one sees there is to learn, and the more one learns, the more one realizes how ignorant one truly is. As you learn, you must never forget the feeling that there is still so much I do not know. Many people lose their humility as their knowledge grows, but that is the most dangerous thing of all. Truth never reveals itself to an arrogant mind. It shows its beautiful form only to a humble and curious heart.
Teaching 7. Change your observation, and the world changes. And now for my final teaching, I wish to speak about the importance of observation. Even when looking at the same phenomenon, how you observe it can reveal something entirely different. Many of the most important discoveries of my research life began by observing commonplace phenomena from a different angle. Let me take you back to the 17th century. It was a well-known fact that objects fall and that celestial bodies move, but these were considered two completely separate phenomena. However, I observed them differently. If the earth is pulling the apple, I wondered, is it not also pulling the moon with the same force? Perhaps the moon is moving at a sufficient velocity that it continuously falls toward the earth without ever hitting it, thus creating an orbit. This shift in observation is what led to the discovery of the law of universal gravitation. During my research at the University of Cambridge, a colleague once said to me, "Newton, why do you gaze so intently at such ordinary things?" I replied, "It is the things that seem ordinary that often hide the deepest secrets. If you change your angle of observation, a whole new world will appear before you." The same was true for my research on optics. Most people took for granted that light is white. But I asked the question, is it really white? By observing it through a prism, I discovered that light is, in fact, a combination of various colors. I encourage you to observe the various phenomena in your daily life. Why do clouds float? Why is water transparent? Why can we hear sound? By asking such questions and observing carefully, you will surely make new discoveries. Cultivating the habit of observation is the key that unlocks the door to truth. That is the attitude that leads to discovery. Of this I am certain. Conclusion. Well, how was it? Of the 7 teachings I have shared with you today, did any of them resonate in your heart? 1. Abandon thinking you know. 2. Do not blindly follow authority. Verify for yourself. 3. Always ask why. 4. Learn mathematics as the language of the natural world. 5. Verify through experiment. 6. Maintain a humble heart. 7. Change your angle of observation. The path of learning is arduous, but there is nothing as beautiful as the quest for truth. That is why I want you to never lose that precious spirit of inquiry. If you found this interesting, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you want to see more, be sure to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up.
May your journey of learning be forever fruitful and full of discovery. That is my sincere wish for you. Thank you very much for watching until the end.